It doesn't matter what kind of e-commerce brand you're building, you still need a rock-solid way to grow and scale your company like clockwork. Welcome to 7 Figures and Beyond, an e-commerce marketing podcast for D2C brand owners and marketers looking for best practices that include proven strategies and tactics to grow an e-commerce brand to 7 figures and beyond. Bringing 18 plus years of marketing experience as an e-commerce brand owner and e-commerce agency owner, please welcome your host, Greg Shuey.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 7 Figures and Beyond e-commerce marketing podcast. I am your host, Greg Shuey. I created this podcast to help D2C business owners and marketers who are stuck and who are actively trying to find a way to grow their businesses. Today, we're going to spend some time really diving in and talking about Shopify product feeds and their upcoming integrations with ChatGPT. I specifically call out Shopify because this won't really apply to any other e-commerce marketing platform yet. It is only applicable to Shopify. This coming update is going to fundamentally change how people discover and buy products online. And I believe that most brands are not ready for it. They're not ready for it at all. A lot of them don't even know. To give you an example, I had 7 discovery calls with prospects last week. When I brought this up, none of them knew that this was happening. So I'm hoping that this is going to really be a wake-up call for anyone who's listening to this. So today, I want to unpack what we know so far, why it matters to D2C brands like yours, and what you can do today to begin to prepare. Because getting ahead of this curve could mean the difference between really owning your niche and having first mover's advantage or being invisible inside the next generation of AI-powered shopping. So let's dive in. So why is this a game changer for brands like yours? Let's start by really getting into the basics. So OpenAI, who owns ChatGPT, they announced several months ago that they are working with Shopify to bring product feeds directly into ChatGPT and their results. So when someone types in a prompt, you'll be able to serve up your products to those individuals. So getting a little bit deeper, like what does this mean for you? So it means that a shopper could ask ChatGPT, find me a 40-quart hard-sided cooler with wheels that keeps ice frozen for at least 5 days and has tie-down latches for my truck. Pretty specific, right? This is how people are using the LLMs like ChatGPT. Far different than what we're used to from an SEO perspective and a Google perspective, where people just go in and they type in 40-quart hard cooler. Very different. If your product feed is connected to ChatGPT and if it's optimized properly, it gives you a much higher chance that your cooler, your brand name, the description of the cooler, a curated image, and a link to visit your website to buy could be served up for that particular prompt or query. And that is really the beauty of this. It goes way beyond traditional product search. It's hyper-focused, it's hyper-specific, it's hyper-personalized, it's conversational, and it is AI-powered. But here's the kicker, another thing that was announced several months ago. We're assuming that when ChatGPT launches this, or shortly thereafter, you will be able to buy right in the platform. This means your customer won't even need to leave ChatGPT to make a purchase. Your product feed and your Shopify will be able to be directly integrated into ChatGPT. People will be able to click and order and pay right in platform. And it's going to be tied right back into Shopify to process the order, send to fulfillment, etc. The code's already built. Like we've seen it, it's live, it's already built. We're just waiting for that integration to happen. Right there, that's the game changer, honestly. No load times, no drop-offs, no abandoned carts because someone got distracted while switching between their 9 million tabs that they have open. None of this nonsense. So my huge key takeaway is that you need to be preparing for this right now. We can't sit on this anymore. It could launch tomorrow. It could launch in 3 months. It could launch next year. But we think it's coming soon. And if you're not on top of this and you're not optimized and ready to go, you're not just risking visibility, you're risking potentially missing out on the entire sales conversations with customers who will never, ever even see your website. They will never visit your website. And to me, that's seriously insane. Like I couldn't even fathom that when this was all announced. It's going to be absolutely wild. So let's talk a little bit about how the customer journey is going to change. So I think you've already gotten a little bit of a sneak peek about how the journey is going to change, but let's dig in just a little bit deeper. So as a consumer, the new shopping experience isn't going to be about browsing dozens of product pages anymore. I mean, I think back to, when I was shopping for some new shirts, I had probably 15 tabs open of the different products. I had product reviews open that I was reading. I was on YouTube looking for product reviews, explainer videos. None of that is really going to happen anymore, right? It's about a customer who's saying exactly what they want and then letting AI become the product researcher and the product shopper for you. So instead of going to Google and typing something like men's white shirt, consumers will start shopping by describing their exact problem. Like, I am tall, I have long arms, I have a long torso. I need something that is going to be bigger, but it's going to fit well. It's not going to fit like a big square garbage bag, right? It's not just about going to Google and typing those keywords anymore. So if your product feed has the right data, like materials, specs, sizing, benefits, the LLMs will be able to match that intent to your product precisely. No more guessing, no more relying on perfect ad targeting, no more hoping your product shows in a either an ad carousel or an organic shopping product carousel. Instead, your product becomes the AI's best answer. So let's flip that around. What happens if you decide that you don't want to mess around with this? That you're like, it's too early to say what the impact's going to be. There's no proof. What's going to happen? Well, it might not hurt you that much, or you might disappear. It may kill you. Who knows? What I do know is that if you are not going to go down this road, when we can start submitting those product feeds to the LLMs, you're going to be leaving it up to them to decide how your product is described and served up to the end user. And that could be disastrous, honestly. It's never a good thing. I would rather err on the side of caution and feed it too much information so that we can kind of control the narrative than letting them decide how they are going to serve that up. If your product feed's missing, if it's messy, or if it's not connected at all, it'll fall back on your product page content, which I'm praying that by now everyone has just amazing product page content. And, if so, that may be okay, but it might not be okay as well. And I don't think it's really a secret that we've all seen that PDPs have vague copy, outdated specs, and missing context. Like I mentioned, there's probably a number of these PDPs that are amazing, but I've also seen a lot of really crappy websites lately that don't have very good PDPs and PLPs. When we're dealing with the LLMs, not only does it not help a user, but if we're dealing with LLMs, they solely rely on content to guide their responses. I think I mentioned a couple episodes ago, like they're using Google results. They're using content from Reddit. They're using content from forums. They're using content from all over the place to be able to make sense and parse that information and kind of tell that story. And they're using that to guide their responses. So if we're not giving that to them, they're just going to be guessing, and they could be making things up. They could be misrepresenting your products, or they could just be leaving it out altogether. So really, in an AI powered world, which is what we're moving to, I feel like that's extremely dangerous. Might I even say that's full on gross negligence? I know that may be a little dramatic, but if you're working on building a brand and you're investing a significant amount of money into building that brand, I would say it's borderline negligence to completely ignore this. And that's really how I feel about this. Because the LLMs are trying to understand your product, plural, right? Products at scale. If you don't tell it what matters, it'll guess. And sometimes that guess is wrong, or worse, it will absolutely ignore you altogether, which is even worse, right? We're not getting our brand into ChatGPT. They're not serving it up. We're not in the consideration set, and that's really bad. So let's talk about what you can do right now to get ready. So there's a couple of things. We're going to specifically talk about the product feed first, and then we're going to get into some other things that you can be doing specifically on your website. So the first thing is rethinking your product feed data. Chances are pretty good that you've been optimizing it for traditional keywords so that you can show up in organic shopping. About a year and a half ago, we started to see organic shopping become much more prevalent in the search engine results pages. As a result, SEOs as well as paid search marketers have spent more time really digging in and optimizing product feeds as well as adding supplemental feeds so that they can show up higher in those organic shopping and in the PMAX results, right? So let's talk about how to optimize for the LLMs. So very first, we want to start with your titles. Make them descriptive. Front load the most important attributes. So if your product is the everyday pack, that tells the LLM absolutely nothing. So instead, you should try 28-liter water-resistant hiking backpack with chest strap. Fits 15-inch laptops. You see how that's much more descriptive. You see how that adds additional product attributes that people might be searching for in the different LLMs. It's different. Also, it's optimized for organic shopping. So you don't have to have one or the other, right? You don't have to have optimizations for AI. You don't have to have optimizations for Google. You're hitting things all together at once. Second thing, optimize your descriptions. Now, this is important. You want to make sure that you're using natural language. AI models prefer well-written, human-friendly copy. Make sure to include product specs, make sure to include benefits, and in some cases, you might even want to include use cases where applicable. This 100% merino wool base layer is ideal for cold weather hiking, moisture wicking, and temperature regulation. See, chances are you're probably trying to get this to show up for merino wool base layer in Google. But by adding additional content and description in there, you're also able to properly optimize for the AI models. All right, third, upload great, or I might even say amazing imagery. A lot of product feeds, we are pulling flat lays that are on white backgrounds. We're pulling very basic lifestyle imagery. So when you're uploading your imagery, make sure that you are showcasing the product's multiple angles, show it at scale, show the product in use, and don't ever rely on flat studio shots alone, right? If everyone else is doing that, you want to be the one that stands out. So do some cool things with your product imagery. Make sure that they're properly optimized and those are uploaded and included in your product feed so that you can stand out, especially when you are served up in ChatGPT's results. All right. Fourth, spend some time implementing schema on your website. So when the LLMs go and they actually look at your product page, which they will do, they're not just going to look at your product feed, they will visit your website. Make sure that you're using structured data to help them understand key fields like price, availability, review score, brand name, and more. That's going to be critically important. It's also important for Google as well to be able to pull in rich content into the search engine results pages. And so again, there you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. The last thing is you do not want to sleep on reviews. I know I harp on this a lot. Reviews are gold. Real customer language embedded on your product page helps reinforce context, intent, as well as provides use cases to the LLMs, but also to Google as well. So you should really be thinking about your product feed like prompt engineering for AI. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean for the prompt that's being asked in ChatGPT? You're going to want to make sure that you put yourself in your customer's shoes. This is a big thing. I believe I talked about this a little bit last time. But take off your marketing hat, put on your shopper hat, and think through, what are they asking the LLMs? What are they inputting into ChatGPT? What are they inputting into Perplexity? What are they inputting into Claude? What are they inputting into Google AI mode? Take that and use it to guide your optimizations. As I've mentioned before, it's not about just being present. It's about being relevant and giving the AI the best chance to recommend your product over your competition. All right. Once your feed's dialed in, let's talk about really owning the narratives. Like, what does that mean? I think this is something that a lot of brands are still missing on. Even with a perfectly optimized product feed, you still need content on your website and off your website that supports your products. It supports your business. It supports your product feed. I think this is like the 5th time today that I've said the LLMs need content to make sense of what you sell, why it's important, etc. First, they'll look at your product feed. After that, they will look at other helpful content on your product pages. And when I say helpful, I know we've probably talked about that a lot as well, and Google leans into helpful content as well. You want to be thinking FAQs. You want to be thinking customer reviews, that type of content. So that's the first place they're going to look. The next place that they are going to look is they're going to go over to your blog. They're going to go over to your About Us page and any other supporting content that will really help them understand your story and why your products matter to your ideal customers. I think those two things are incredibly important. Your story, you need to make sure you're telling that story, and then why your products matter to your ideal customers. That's really the narrative that we want to tell. So let me walk through like how we tackle this for our clients at Stride. So we do a couple of things. First, we leverage FAQs like crazy. I know I've talked about this before. We do this so much that we've actually built a really cool AI agent to help us surface those FAQs and then also help us craft the very best answer for those frequently asked questions. We then take that answer, our writer spends some time revising it where necessary, optimizing it to show up in AI overviews. People also ask, as well as the LLMs, and then we let it rip. We try to get about 5 to 10 FAQs on every PLP, your category pages, every PDP, your product pages, and then we let it rip. So you can do this manually. You can do this by using a tool called Also Asked, or you can just go over to Google and you can start punching in search queries and then start looking at the people also ask results. It takes a lot longer to do it that way. If you use Also Ask and if you use Google to do that, the nice thing is that you can open up what those answers are traditionally, and you can use that to start to guide your content creation. One thing to really remember is that when you're optimizing your FAQs, you want to reinforce your product benefits and spend time working to overcome objections. Because a lot of times people don't buy because of necessarily who your business is or your brand story. They are going to specifically looking at product benefits, as well as they are going to be looking at how you're overcoming those objections. Just like in sales in general, right? If you're a B2B salesperson or have done B2B sales before, like you're working to overcome objections in order to be able to close the sale. That's where you use your FAQs to be able to do that. And it's very powerful. The next thing that we do is that we write a lot of very high quality authoritative blog content. Some of this content is very thorough compare and contrast pieces that showcases our clients' products to their competitors. Now, these aren't go out and bash on your competitor pieces. That's not tactful. That's not nice. We don't promote that whatsoever. I really hate it when brands do that, honestly. But they are very tactful pieces that showcase the differences, the benefits, the disadvantages of both options, right? Again, this is not an attack your competitor. The nice thing is when you start to do this kind of compare and contrast, bringing competitors into your content, not only will that help the LLMs have the right context to tell your story the right way, but it also helps create an association with you and your competitor. So if the LLMs are consistently recommending your competition and they come across this piece that now your brand name is in close association with your competitor's brand name, you are much more likely to be recommended and showing up in those same recommendations from ChatGPT and the LLMs. You not only want to do this on your website, but you also want to try to do it on third-party websites as well. And so reaching out to bloggers to do compare and contrast pieces with you and 2 or 3 of your competitors is a great way to be able to do that. Again, this is the context that those LLMs need to tell your story the right way. So to put this in a very short and succinct statement, your product feed is the what, and your supporting content is the why. And I think it's very critical that you understand that and that you start tackling your content in such a way. Okay. So you're probably saying to yourself, great, right? Is this change, whenever it happens, if it's going to even happen, is it going to kill Performance Max and Google Shopping? I did a recording a few episodes on is SEO dead? Well, no, not anytime soon anyway. And I feel it's the same way with Google Shopping Performance Max. Although ChatGPT is growing in usage, right now it is not considered a Google killer. Google still owns a massive percent of the market share. And with launching AI mode, and that now that that's in full swing, it's going to be interesting to see that data here in a few months and in a year from now to see what does that look like now. Will it chip away at Google's influence over time? Maybe, probably. But we'll have to see. Google's AI mode's pretty impressive so far. It's still giving back some inaccurate information to me anyway, but it's pretty impressive. And so will people be more likely to use that than having to go have an additional third-party tool like ChatGPT or an additional app on their phone? Who knows? I think we just need to really understand that if and when consumers start shopping inside of ChatGPT or other AI platforms, that they may skip the traditional Google ad, they may skip the traditional Google search, they may not ever land on your website, they may never browse 12 tabs, they may never have that experience because it's just seamless and it's inside of platform. What this means for brands is that, when this time comes, if we start to see a degradation of Google Ads Performance Max, they may start to reallocate some of that spend and spending less on media and more on feed quality and more on content that trains the AIs to actually sell for them. It's not really a replacement. I would more so call this a rebalancing. So that was a lot. As we start to wrap up and close up this episode, I think the key takeaways that you should be making note of and start doing right away. The first is signing up for early access. So if you are on Shopify, make sure that you are in the loop when OpenAI opens up the product feed access for your brand. There is a link that you can go sign up on, and they will notify you as soon as that is available. I will include that link on how to register in our show notes. That's going to be the first thing. It's going to take less than a minute to do that. I recommend going and doing that today. Next, you should start optimizing today. Clean up your titles, tighten your descriptions, revisit your images, add schema to your website. It doesn't have to be perfect, especially this first draft. It just has to be better than it is now. And then last, start thinking through your content strategy. What content should you be publishing on your website? Start to think through how people ask the LLMs like ChatGPT, asking them, different questions, different prompts, so that you can start to think through, okay, here's how I need to build my content, or here's how I need to revise my content. And then most important, recognize that this is going to be a massive shift that catapults us forward. It's not just a trend. It's not a gimmick. It's not scary. This is going to be the new interface for e-commerce. I truly think that we are going to get to the point where we rely on AI models and LLMs to do shopping for us. It's just going to be so much easier than the way that we do it now. So embrace that, get excited about that, and start working on that and building a plan to work on that today, over the coming weeks, over the coming months. And I hope this episode was super helpful, super insightful, and that you were able to find 2 to 3 golden nuggets that you can take and start implementing today. Thank you so much for sharing a few minutes of your day with me, and I hope that you tune in again next time. Thank you so much for joining.